So, welcome everybody to week 7 of the foundation. I can't believe we're already at week 7. I'm just like, I was just this morning posting week 8, and I thought, how did we even get here? It's really amazing how this journey unfolds and how great it is to be with each of you. So, today we are going to be focusing on group online art therapy, which is another thing super close to my heart. I run a lot of women's groups that seem to be really, really popular. Usually I intend to run one group and then I end up running about 3 at the same time just because it's so popular. People really want to do it. So I'm going to be giving you my formula today on how to do that. So your groups get nice and full. And I also often run one on dream work as well. And so we're going to be doing some brainstorming around groups that you might want to be running. We're also going to be looking at how to sell your group. This is where we get into the really juicy part, because it's often the part as therapists we're like, oh, I can't do that. I can't sell. But I'm going to give you some really amazing ways to be able to do that. And then we're also going to be looking at intake forms as well, and the kind of questions that you want to be asking and how you want to be framing it when you're going to be doing groups. So let's check in with sharing a recent success in the comments below. Yeah, and I feel like I want to share one now. I'm like, yay! I was running a women's group, which ties into this week, and it was a 9-week group. And at the end, the women were just like, can we please continue? And so I'm going to do another round with them because they just love the group so much. So I just sent out an email to do another 9 weeks with them. So this is something that can happen as well. So it's like if we create like a structure and it really works, it's like magic can happen. And I had one woman from that group saying it was the most profound group she'd been in. She could actually open in a way she'd never been able to before. So I'm going to continue. So that's my little juicy bit of news today. So welcome everybody, and thank you for sharing all those wonderful things. It's so good to feel like uplifted by all of you and to share those successes and the positive things. So as I said today, we are going to be doing groups, which, yeah, for me, it's such a passion in terms of online and how we can create these structures, so either like last week we talked about virtual open studios, and it's like people might want to transition into closed groups. Also, people might be finishing one-to-one and wanting to go into a group because they're now group ready, or vice versa. Sometimes I get people come to groups and they're like, oh, I really need to be one-to-one. And so it works in lots of different ways. And it's another way to kind of have another level of income coming in. Like even if you run one group a week, it's like a great way to have just this top up. So maybe you have like 4 individual clients, then maybe you have like 1 or 2 groups, and then you also run a virtual open studio. So it's making it diverse so that you're not really relying on one way of working and one way of income coming in, but it's across the board, so it becomes much more sustainable. And you can run the same group multiple times. So it can also be a way of kind of building up your practice and your skills and allowing the evaluations that come in and reflecting on them. And another way is going to be courses that are kind of more passive that I'm going to talk about next week, but I won't get ahead of myself. So today, what I want to start with is a little bit of a slideshow. So I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. So here are some questions that you want to start by asking. So we are going to be working now to design a group, and I'm just going to give you an overview, and then we're going to be working with this little checklist that I created for you. So I want you to think about, as we've done all the time we've been on this course, is this ideal clients that you're kind of imagining. Who was it who was drawn to you? Who do you want to create a group for? So you want to ask yourself, will this group be a generalized group, or will it be focused on specific issues, topics, or themes or qualities? For example, a group focused on grief versus an art therapy studio. So I have a women's group that's focused on phases of the moon. So you can really think about what is it, the qualities that you want to be bringing in? It could be a group on mindfulness. It could be a group for parents who are having difficulties with their children. It could be a group for people struggling with illness. So really thinking about the specific issue, but it could also be a need or a theme that you've identified. Like, we've already done a lot of this work. So it's now just kind of going back to your notes and being like, okay, well, what is the need and what might they like to focus on within here? So will it be, oh yes, Sarah, go for it.
Okay. Well, earlier on in the classes, one of my specific groups I wanted to work with was people maybe dealing with substance abuse. But then the one class, it said that those people shouldn't be doing online therapy. Would that be the same for a group or just one-on-one?
It really depends. You know, the general thing says people who have substance misuse issues probably shouldn't be working online because they actually need more physical support. But if they have physical support, then I would say it's also okay. And there has been a shift because during the pandemic, like a lot of groups like AA did go online, and it has actually been really successful. So I would be looking at the overall picture and making sure people had, you know, in-person support as well as being able to join the group at the same time. Yeah. Okay, so will it be a support group, a discussion group, or a therapy group? So there's lots of ways that you can frame this as well. Like, it doesn't always have to be a therapy group. You might want to model it in a different way. You might want to do more art as a therapy. You might want to be doing a discussion, a weekly discussion group about something, but using art therapy tools within it. So there's lots of different ways that you can frame this. You know, sometimes we automatically think, I'm doing a group, they'll make art, we'll talk about it, that's it, right? But it's like all these different ways that we can generate ideas and have like interesting and different ways to do it. We're also going to think about what technology or delivery system will we use. So, I mean, with Zoom, it's going to be on Zoom because we're here right now on Zoom, but not necessarily. Like, there's other platforms that we can use. There's other, you know, some people, I'm not recommending that we do this for a therapy group, but lots of people have WhatsApp groups. Like, there's lots of different ways to think about how you can deliver. And Mary, for you right now, you're probably going to start modifying this and actually using it and thinking about in person and in terms of delivery systems in that way. You're going to think about how many participants, and this is really going to vary. So usually when I run a women's group, I'll have 4 people within my group, which seems like not very many at all, but it's the way that I want to work. I want to give everybody about 10 to 15 minutes of processing time. But you might not want that. You might want to have more. You might want to have, I mean, it really depends. Like, you might have like a mass. I actually took part in a mass art therapy group as part of Goldsmiths University. And we had 60 people in our art therapy group on Zoom. And nobody was really leading it. They had art therapy facilitators, but everybody just made art at the same time and talked to each other if they wanted to. So I'd be like, oh, Val, your painting looks great. And of course, they had really, really English accents. So it was really quite funny. I mean, I have an English accent, but they were like, it sounded very strange to me. So people would be looking at each other and then like doing a bit of painting, coming back. So thinking about possible models, it's not always that we need to think, okay, it needs to be small or it's going to be huge. It's like we can really start to match what the client's needs are, you know, especially if we're thinking about community. Oh, yes, Tammy.
I had actually, you just reminded me because I knew I had a question from watching the video, but I didn't remember what it was until you just said that. So in the video, you were saying that you will often do like a breakout room with them and ask them about their work. So I'm assuming that that's after the work is done. So what are the other people doing if their work is done while you're waiting?
So I don't use breakout rooms in the women's group, but I use it when I'm teaching. So
when you're saying that you ask them the questions and you say, okay, is this something that we could take back to share? Like, how are you doing that? Are you doing that privately or, well, you must be if you're saying you want to take it back to share.
Okay. Reframe that question. I'm a little bit confused.
I thought in the video you said that you will check in with them. You will ask them like, what do you see? What do you do? And then you will say something like, would you be willing to share this with the group? So how is that happening?
Sorry, that's just my language, which is a little bit confusing. So would you be willing to share and open up so that the other members of the group can ask questions? So it's like I would do the process with you. Let's say you have a piece of art right now, and I asked, what do you see? Things like that. And then maybe we have a process for about 10 minutes.
So are you saying, like, are you willing to let them also make comments? Is that what you mean by it?
Yes,
Rather than,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
they're essentially
Yeah.
already sharing it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So sorry, it's just my language and way of saying it in an English way. But yes, asking if there's any insights or questions that are coming up, but I'm really framing it in the sense that I am not kind of getting them to project and be like, oh, that reminds me of my cat, or, like this, but more having curiosity. And we're modeling that as therapists.
Okay, I interpret it as you were going into a breakout room, talking with them privately, and then asking if they wanted to take it back to share. Okay.
No, but so thank you for clarifying. Like, yes. So it's very much within the group format, and it's also going to be based on the arc of therapy. So in the beginning, I'm not going to be doing it so much more. I'm going to be building up trust. It's going to be me working with a person. And then slowly as the group forms, I'm going to be wanting to open it out more to the group so that there creates cohesion and connection between members until eventually I'm actually really not doing as much as the group holding the other person. Yeah, of course, the cohesion has to be there. So if the group isn't forming that way, you're obviously not going to be kind of keeping to expand. You're going to be kind of like containing it as the therapist. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that question. Okay, so the other one's, how will members be screened for admission to the group? So I usually have an intake, and then I also schedule a 15-minute call with people to be able to check in and to feel if they're group ready and if it's going to be right for them. It's also an opportunity for people to tell me, oh, I have this issue going on, I need support in this way. So I'm always kind of doing a double check. I'm not doing like an hour intake like I would do with an individual, but it's just this short frame which allows me to feel into the person. And I've already got a lot of that information from the intake form, which I'm going to show you a bit later. You also want to be thinking about how much the facilitator involvement there will be. Some groups are like, like I was saying with the Goldsmiths groups, it was like, we're just here. And then, it's up to the participants to interact, but it might be like we looked at last week, and it's that place of, I do the introductions, I set the tone, I introduce the project, I process with people. So you're really thinking about how much of a role that you want to take. So more questions. What is the frequency and duration? I run my groups every week, but you could do it every 2 weeks or once a month. It could be over a year. It could be over 3 sessions. So you're really thinking about what's going to be right. I run my groups for 9 weeks because I have 8 phases of the moon. And in the last week, we do an art review all together, which seems to work really well. I used to try and squeeze it into 8. And then I realized people actually want time to process and look at their art and recognize the journey that they've been on. You also want to think about what timing works. And so one of the things that I do is actually put it into Heartspace and ask people. I say, I'm thinking about starting a women's group. Who's interested? What times would you be available based on my schedule? So I might give like 3 different options. I also do that within the intake form as well, so people can identify what time is going to work for them. But it's really good to be able to actually have action research and be able to ask people directly who are interested when they're available. You also want to think, will the group be open membership or will it be closed? Like you might have an ongoing group where people are welcome to join every 3 months. There's a new intake of people. It might be that it's completely closed and you work with the same people all the time. Will it be time limited, a commitment of group members, or open group? So you might have it for a certain time. Okay, for 6 sessions, we're going to commit, and then we're going to see if anybody else wants to join, and some people want to leave. You're going to ask the group to sign consent forms and disclaimers. Will you do that or not? And what will the fee schedule be? How will the group be funded? So sometimes we can get funding, but mostly we have to work out how much we are going to charge people. And when I run groups, I charge 20 to 40 per session. So that I like to do a sliding scale so that people can find their way through. I sometimes have people that come and say, I can't afford that. Can I pay $10? And I'm like, yes. But I try to limit, so I kind of have an overall that it's recognizing the work that I'm putting in, but it's also fair for the people who are joining. Does anybody have any questions about this? I know it's a lot of questions and a lot to take in.
Yeah, I do. I'm not interested in the sliding scale, and I've participated in those with various people, and I do it as I can. I'm just curious, like, do you find that people really, like, people do the range?
Yeah. Usually I have 2 people that pay 30, one that pays 40, and one that pays 20. It just seems to work out that way. Yeah. It's kind of wild. Yeah.
So that's what I would hope, is that people are respectful and, I can do that. I can pay this. I have the resources. And
what I would do as well is, like, say, for example, if I have 4 people and everyone says I can only pay 20, I might add a few more people to the group just to try and like expand it a bit so that I'm not just, getting paid $40 an hour, which, is okay if that's okay for you, but it's like I know that this is my lowest rate that I'm gonna choose right now.
Well, you've got expenses too, right, that you need to consider.
Yeah, exactly. So you've just got to frame it in a way that feels right for you and work out, like, what is this also going to lead to? And I find that my groups, because I will run, usually, I'm only running one at the moment, but I usually run 2 or 3. And so that in itself feels like very, very manageable in terms of, the amount I'm getting paid, the resources that I'm putting in, how I'm holding people, and framing in that way. But it's really up to you to feel into what feels right for you in terms. But I think it is really good to have a sliding scale. Some people just put a fixed price, which also works as well. So because
how many people, you said your women's group was 4, so on average would you say is 4?
Sometimes I go up to 5, especially if I've got so many people trying to join, but generally I do 4 because I really want to have 15 minutes per person to process. But 10 is also fine, right? Because what I do is I'll have an introduction, then I'll have art making for a certain time, then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and look at the art.
And how long are your groups?
2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
Yeah. So this is just my guidelines, but you can stretch it out to whatever you want. You can feel into it. You can even get people to make art before. I actually used to run the groups for an hour and a half, and I would get people to make art before. But then what I was reading on the feedback forms is people love community. That was the reason they were coming. And I was like, I want to do art making in community to support that cohesion and that goal that people are having. But that's not necessary that you need to do that. So there's lots of different ways that you can frame it and place it and hold it in certain ways. Okay, so now we're going to go into the juicy part, which is creating your own. So hopefully all of you have this checklist. Either you've printed it out, I'm going to leave it up on the screen, you can see it. And so this is a form for you to just fill out now, to just be like, okay, I'm going to work out what kind of group I'm going to run. People always get confused about this, which says complete, and that's just like, I've completed the form. So I put that in because there was a space there. But yeah, people always ask me every time I run that. But so you're going to do what we've just worked through in terms of the questions, and you get a clear view of what your group is going to be. And then after that, I'm going to teach you how to market it. And by the end of this, you are literally going to be ready to run a group. Not to say you have to, but you have all the skills and the tools there. So you're going to be able to do that. So any questions before we move into this? Okay, is it useful for me to leave this up on the screen? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so we're gonna take, I can't even remember what I've scheduled now. I think it's 10 minutes, but whoops. Okay, now I'm going ahead of myself. Yeah, so let's take 10 minutes now. Ooh, maybe 15. Okay, I'll check in after 10. If people are really like, I need more time, I'll give it. But let's take 10 minutes now. I'm here if anybody has any questions or needs anything. you're welcome to ask me. You can unmute or you can write to me in the chat. So think about who is it that you want to work to? Who is one of the groups that you identified in those really early stages of this course?